Hi, I'm Jon Ireland with Broadfording.church, and I'm the family life pastor. And we're going to go through the story of Jonah and understand a little bit more in depth what God is trying to reveal in the scriptures of Jonah. We call this exegesis. And exegesis is just a big word that means critical inspection of the text. And exegesis has four main layers: the grammatical historica, the redemptive historica, the Christocentric, and the heart application. So if we look at grammatical historical, this is asking questions: what are the key words? What is the genre? Is this a poetry? Is this a story? What is the literature behind the text? There's other questions such as, who is the main audience? What is the history of the nature or the culture that we're dealing with in the story? And then we have redemptive historical. What does this fit in the context of the story of redemption of God? That is the question we need to ask. What is the unfolding self-revelation of God? Next, we have Christocentric, which is, where does Jesus fit into the text? Where does Jesus fit in the story of redemption? The layers of historical grammatical and historical redemptive are very important when we're exegesising the text. And next, we have heart application. What is God trying to reveal through the Holy Spirit to my heart, to my life, to my context, to my culture? So we're going to jump in Jonah 1, verse 1. The word of the Lord. Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and call out against it, for their evil has come up before me. But Jonah rose to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. He went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare and went down into it, to go with them to Tarshish, away from the presence of the Lord. So when we look at key words or key phrases here, we see this word down. He went down to Joppa, and then he went down into the boat. This is a phrase we're going to see a lot in the story of Jonah. Him going down, 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 down. In verse 4 it says, But the Lord hurled a great wind upon the sea, and there was a mighty tempest on the sea, so that the ship threatened to break up. Then the mariners were afraid, and each cried out to his God. And they hurled the cargo that was in the ship into the sea to lighten it for them. But Jonah had gone down into the inner part of the ship, and had laid down and was fast asleep. So the captain came to him and said to him, What do you mean, you sleeper? Arise, call out to your God. Perhaps the God will give a thought to us, that we may not perish. So Jonah has a dialogue back and forth with the sailors of what they should do. And we see that Jonah and them end up casting lots of who should be thrown overboard. And we're picking up in verse 11. It says this, Then they said to him, What shall we do to you, that the sea may quiet down for us? For the sea grew more and more tempestuous. And he said to them, Pick me up and hurl me into the sea. Then the sea will quiet down for you. For I know it is because of me that this great tempest has come upon you. Nevertheless, the men rowed hard to get back to dry land, but they could not, for the sea grew more and more tempestuous against them. Therefore they called out to the Lord, O Lord, let us not perish for this man's life, and lay us not on innocent blood. For you, O Lord, have done it as it has pleased you. So they picked up Jonah and hurled him into the sea, and the sea ceased from its raging. Then the men feared the Lord exceedingly, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows. And the Lord appointed a great fish to swallow up Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. This is the theme. Jonah going down into Joppa, down into the boat, down into the bowels of the boat, and then thrown overboard into the belly of a fish. But the story doesn't end there. God meets Jonah where he's at. God meets us where we're at. No matter how deep in sin we might be, no matter how deep in struggle we might be, no matter how far away we feel from God, God is our pursuer, and he comes after us, as we see in Jonah 1.